Like I said, it's a hybrid meeting, so we do have a couple of folks joining us via Zoom as well. Thank you to those who came out here in person to De La Viega Elementary School. Let's see, I'm just going to go ahead and share a couple of slides here to begin with. And I'll start with some introductions. So we've got a great panel for you tonight. I'm joined by Laura Sudis from Senator John Laird's office. She's the district representative. Got Tony Elliott with the City Parks Department, our City Parks Director. Lieutenant Carter Jones with the City Police Department. Let's see, I'm make sure I get this right. Chief of Prevention, Tim Shields, and our Fire Marshal for the City of Santa Cruz. And then
Dustin Ross with the PD's Homeless Response Team Supervisor. And I'm Ryan Garrett from also on the police department.
So the goal of our meeting tonight is to talk about fire prevention and safety in the community. I've got a few slides to talk about some of the things that the county is doing on these efforts, as well as how we're interacting with the state on the important issue of fire insurance. And then I will turn it over, I think, first to Lieutenant Jones, and we'll go on from there. So fire insurance has been a hot topic, no pun intended, recently. Just to put this in perspective, our state has had 9 of the 10 worst fires in its whole history just within the last decade. So clearly it's a problem that's getting worse. And what we've seen, particularly recently, is that a number of insurers are stopping or to insure in California as a result, or pulling out of the market. Our state's 85% of all the policies in California are written by just 12 insurance companies. And those 12, 7 out of them have actually stopped issuing policies in California right now. So it's having a huge impact on the market. I know I've received a lot of emails and calls from concerned residents who are seeing their insurance getting canceled. I'm sure Laura has dealt with many, heard from many constituents as well. And of course, the state fair plan, which is supposed to be a plan of last resort, is becoming a plan of first resort for a lot of people. Right now, it represents 3% of the entire market in California. So we've had some information recently from our California Department of Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara. They came to present to our Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday to share some information, and also held a town hall meeting in Scotts Valley last night. And so I'll just kind of summarize what we're hearing from the insurance commissioner. First is that home hardening will lead to discounts on your fire insurance. This is, of course, a work in progress, but that's where we're heading. And the second thing is you have a right to know and appeal your risk score. And if you're told otherwise by your insurance company, the Department of Insurance is going to go to bat on your behalf and make sure that you get that information to understand sort of what rubric insurance companies are using to determine the amount of your policy, or why they're saying they need to drop you. The kind of framework that the Department of Insurance is using to talk about this is safer from wildfires, protect your home, protect its immediate surroundings, and protect the whole community. I think this is not new information probably to most of you by now. Basically they're saying if you start by protecting your home with a Class A roof, 5-foot ember resistant zone around the structure, ember and fire resistant fence, double pane windows, all these kind of direct improvements to your home. If you clear 30 feet around your home, trim trees and brush and other debris away from decks, and ultimately form a Firewise community, and are in a city or county or other local district that is certified as fire risk reduction community, that these combination of things will lead to progressively more discounts on your fire insurance. How is that actually going to come to pass? Well, first of all, with the FAIR plan, right now, you can get a 5 to 10% reduction on that rate if you've done the aforementioned things and hardened your home against fire. So we're starting by taking the state plan and ensuring that what we ultimately are going to want private insurers to do, we're doing with the public plan. I believe that started in August of last year. And then the insurance commissioner is going to turn around and say, hey, these are the folks who are already giving a discount to that we would recommend and would like you to insure because they're lower risk and you know they're and that way it can move back from the FAIR plan into the private market. And then, as I already mentioned, you have the right to know your risk score and ultimately appeal it with your insurer, and the insurance commissioner will support you on that as well. They're also just this middle bullet point, the California FAIR Plan is now offering $20 million coverage per location, which is important for commercial policies and of course HOAs too. So if you're in a condominium complex or something, now the state FAIR Plan will be a backup even for that higher insurance rate. That's basically the gist of the insurance commissioner's current action plan. And feel free to write down this number. You know, if you're hearing from, like I said, you're insured that we can't tell you what this little black box says about how we calculate your risk, by all means, we can push back on that, and the Department of Insurance can help. Of course, from the county's efforts, we really want to be a good partner in ultimately bringing that, making that community score better, you know, that you actually live in a, you know, low risk community. So we are working on a number of community-wide projects. The one pictured here is the Summit Road shaded fuel break. You can see the before and after there, clearing out all that underbrush. We've got another project just like this that's been funded thanks to our partners at the state to close to $1 million along Soquel San Jose Road. So another vital corridor for a lot of mountain residents and key to you know, preventing the spread of wildfire to different parts of our county. We're also working on power line undergrounding along Soquel San Jose Road and mowing along county roadways. And we're really looking to extend this work quite substantially. We have made it through the first round of review for a $20 million FEMA BRIC grant, which is basically a sort of proactive approach to trying to reduce risk for our community. Our Office of Response, Recovery, and Resilience is working on that. And if it does, they're working on project scoping and permitting right now with FEMA. And if that does come through, again, that's $20 million to support hazardous fuel reduction and home hardening in defensible space. And then, of course, the board of supervisors will continue to support state efforts. So in addition to the insurance commissioner's efforts, there is actually legislation right now in the state Senate, SB 1060, which would require insurance risk models to account for wildfire risk reduction associated with hazardous fuel reduction, home hardening, defensible space, and fire prevention activities. So basically putting into law this practice I've mentioned. The other areas that the county's working to improve our disaster preparedness is really around communications. So we've put in 3 new alert wildfire cameras, bringing the total from 4 to 7. This is a super cool site, alertcalifornia.org/cameras. And you can click on there and you can see the different cameras throughout the community and where they're looking now. This was a recommendation that came out of the civil grand jury report to expand our early warning system, and we've done that. We've improved the way that we being the county send out early warning through the CruiseAware platform. If you're not signed up for that already, you can do so at cruiseaware.com. And anytime there's an emergency in your zone, you'll get a text or an email. You can choose how you want to be communicated with. And then we're just really trying to expand people's connectivity throughout the Santa Cruz Mountains, because we know that's a problem in any disaster. Maybe it doesn't apply quite as much to Prospect Heights here, but improving our cell tower ordinance to get more wireless communication up, as well as implementing our broadband master plan. So a lot of the state and federal funding that's come into our community is supports middle mile and last mile, and we're using that to deploy really advanced wireless technologies for internet connectivity. For example, we're putting something on the Loma Prieta Tower. It's called the Toronto Wireless router, and it communicates with us between 2 points 5,000 times a second. So every single angle you can imagine. And so that allows it to get around trees, get into deeper canyons, and really provide better connectivity for more people in more areas. That one wireless transponder will serve about 750 homes up there. And of course, the county will continue to support the Fire Safe Council and FireWise neighborhoods. I just want to remind you guys, if you didn't realize this already, you have got the founding FireWise group right here in Prospect Heights, and recently received a mayor's proclamation to honor you for all the work that your FireWise group has done. And keep up the good work. If you're not already involved in your local FireWise group, you can do so by get in touch with Abby and is it Brian right here.
We'll sign it sheet over here. If you want to put your email address down, we'll get you on it. We encourage you also to, talk to your neighbors about the significance of FireWise and the fact that if you gather their email, it can stay informed of what they're doing. So we can help with the outreach to the neighbors who may not be able to reach out. You can always get us
you can always reach us at prospectheightsfirewise@gmail.com. So prospectheightsfirewise@gmail.com.
Great, thank you. I'll just say one more word here before handing it over, which is some of the new updates. The county is, or updates on the county's efforts to address homelessness. The first is that we are, because after all, we do know that our unhoused population can be the cause of many fires, unfortunately. So the first thing is we are moving forward with adding behavioral health bridge housing on Soquel Avenue. This is at the location of our current psychiatric care facility. And this would be 34 units that will really ensure that folks who currently go to the psychiatric care facility can stay in this temporary housing facility. So rather than discharging people back to the streets to go, figure it out on their own, which unfortunately often means going to camp in probably Arana Gulch, which would be the closest city park. We'll have this bridge housing available where people can stay for up to 6 months, and we'll use that time to work with them. And it is a service-rich environment, meaning we do a lot of work with folks to make sure we can connect them with more like a long-term housing voucher or other ways to get them into some kind of permanent housing. We also continue to work with the city to find locations for safe parking so that the oversized vehicle ordinance can be enforced, because we've got safe alternatives for people to park their RVs in a sanctioned location, where we can also connect them with an outreach worker to, again, help them find more permanent housing. The city and county are working together to provide ongoing funding for North County Shelter, including maintaining the Armory Overlook camp for the short term until we figure out something more permanent. We're also investing in homelessness prevention programs, because really homelessness is not a static, it's not a static group of people who are experiencing homelessness in our community. People become homeless every day. People exit homelessness every day. But really the more we can prevent people from entering, the easier the problem gets to address folks who are currently experiencing homelessness. That's all I have is by way of slides. I'll hand it to Lieutenant Jones here to talk about what the city police department's doing. Oh, and because it is a hybrid meeting, if you could speak into the mic so that folks online can hear you, it would be great.
Sounds
And I'll turn this down.
loud and good. So good evening, everyone.
My name is Carter Jones. I'm the lieutenant that oversees the homelessness response team from the police department. We have a few special guests too in the front row here. This is our outreach team from the city that does all our outreach to the homeless population, provides those services that we were just discussing and trying to get people that monumental task of actually getting people to accept services when we go into these places where people have encampments and things like that. Last time we were here was a few weeks prior to our big cleanup behind the Brant's 40 Dog Park. So that was kind of the hot button issue. So that we cleaned that up today. It's still completely clear. There is a new encampment of about 3 people off of Carroll Avenue that we have scheduled in the next 2 weeks to abate that and clean up and have a bid to clean up that whole garbage patch area that's up there. So that's specifically in this neighborhood. That's kind of what's going on in terms of like citywide as a whole. As mentioned, the oversized vehicle ordinance and things of that nature are still like full speed ahead. And the Coastal Commission just approved like a 2-year approval for that to then look back and see how it's going and possibly approve the oversized vehicle ordinance further after that initial 2-year period. So that's kind of from I want to stay specific kind of to the area. We could probably sit up here and talk about the city of Santa Cruz homelessness problem all night, but really trying to keep it to the area here specific. One of the other areas that we had heard about, which isn't necessarily our jurisdiction, is but we communicate with Caltrans a lot, is people coming and camping along the freeway, specifically right outside here at the Morrissey on and off ramp. So on both sides of the freeway. So we're constantly checking in with Caltrans. I encourage you, if you Google Caltrans and report an incident, you can go on there and put little markers on where you see homeless encampments on the freeway. We do that. We check over there, but it's their area, their jurisdiction on the freeway. But just to let you know, that is something we are well aware of. So that's kind of just a 30,000 foot view of what's going on in the city.
Decision-making process that goes into prioritizing the encampments. The one on Carroll Avenue, in fact, has been there for about 5 months, and well over 30 or 40 calls have been logged on that. It's not just 3 people, but there's daily traffic going up there, so they're clearly shooting up. So I'd like to kind of better understand, help us all understand what criteria is used. So far, what I've heard is that the larger the camps, they seem to get the attention. Do drugs come into play? Do locations? These are like 100 yards from residents, and the residents have told me they're afraid to go out at night. So what criteria is used to separate large and small encampments?
Yeah, that is a great question. So we have weekly meetings where basically all of us jump on a Zoom meeting and we bring up all the new encampments that come in. Obviously, if there is a more critical area like next to a school around kids, likelihood of fire, things of that, we're coming out of the wet season into the drier season. So all those things are one of the check marks that we look at. As you know, there's no shortage of encampments throughout the city. So it is kind of complaint driven. So when an area is more off the beaten path and isn't really seen and has lower complaints, those tend to not get higher on our priority list. But I won't speak for Tim Shields here, but if there are areas that are definitely more fire risk areas, those definitely, they can come in later, but they'll definitely like leapfrog other encampments.
Where they've been for 4 or 5 months now is exactly where we've had like 3 air supported fires over the last 5 years. So I would think that would immediately elevate priority. Just because we've had 3 fires there and no other place in the park have there been fires, but where these homeless encampments are.
Yeah, it's definitely something we consider, and we all in these meetings, we all sit down and say, okay, what's our priority list for the week? Okay, we're gonna go tag some places on some camps on Coral Street, over by, you know, the railroad tracks over by Swift, because it's over by like Georgiana Bruce Kirby School or something, or I'm sorry, off of Encinal, and then maybe on the west side and things like that. So it's a sliding scale, but they definitely do take priority in certain situations.
Get people, unnerved at times, as you're well aware.
That's great. And you're talking to about half the people that sit on those calls and lobby for what's dealt with next. So it's a good cross section of not just my ears, but everybody in here hearing what needs to be a priority.
that you're doing. This is Abby Young with Firewise. I'm just really grateful that we have the police department here, and how I'm interested in how you do liaison with the social services and with fire, especially when you have individuals that need to be redirected. I know it's hard to convince, but how how do you do that? It's not by force, but tell us a little more about how the intervention teams work.
Absolutely. Well, I'll defer to Sergeant Dustin Ross on that, because he's actually the one who's the boots on the ground with the outreach team right here. And he'll be able to explain exactly kind of what a day looks like in the life of integrating both those teams.
Hi, everybody. Again, Dustin Ross with Santa Cruz Police Department. I've been with the police department for about 16 years now. Myriad of different jobs, been doing homeless response off and on for the last 6 years or so. To answer your question, so what typically happens once the priorities are set each week, sometimes they're reset, sometimes there are bigger problems that are ongoing, so they get a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, what have you. Usually what happens, Jeremy, Erica, and Jen here are wonderful outreach workers. They will go out, they will contact everybody in that area, whatever priority area has been set. Again, if I'm speaking out of turn for you guys, please stop me if I get it wrong. They will go out, they offer every service under the sun that they're able to offer people. Some of those people take those services, some of those people do not. When folks don't want to take those services, then my team comes out, we do our noticing. It's usually, legally, it's a minimum of 24 hours to vacate the area. What we normally typically give, because we understand that life happens, is usually about anywhere from 72 hours to a week to vacate an area. That gives our wonderful outreach workers who do a ton of hiking, a lot of time to go out and talk to people at different times of the day, different parts of their life, to see if maybe during the day they don't want to take those services, but maybe at night they want to take those services, or in the early afternoon, what have you. And then when the cleanup day comes, my team comes out, make sure usually either city workers or third-party contractors make sure they're safe, and we have outreach workers on our cleanup days as well. If people go, you know what, I'm tired of living this lifestyle, I want to get into shelter, I want to get into mental health, drug rehab, everything that can be offered to them, they're going to be there to get them into those services. So quite honestly, these three right here are the biggest heroes in our homeless response team. Did that kind of answer it, hopefully?
Thanking your outreach workers. That's a very tough job. I hope you have funding for more, because
That's always
needs to
the
be an
hope.
important interface, but you're doing a really important job. Thank you. And the liaison it's really helpful to know
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
These three here, they're on the ground every day. They're out there putting in the work. They're doing the good work out there. I'm really proud to be able to work with them in this.
Thank you.
Oh goodness. I I have so much to talk about. You guys might be here for hours, so buckle in. First of all, I want to thank Supervisor Koenig for having us and the opportunity to reach out to the community. Second, I don't know if I'll throw a shout out to my boss, Chief Odie, who's up at the Giants Dodgers game. So that's why I'm here speaking today. Go Giants. So I'm super excited, even more so than I normally am, because I have so many great things to communicate to this community and to the city itself of very exciting things that are ahead of us, and some great things that we are looking behind that we've accomplished. Um, First of all, the recognition, thank you for bringing it up, of our Prospect Heights Firewise community, which was the first recognized community in the county. So good on you. Always looking to expand. So any of you who are not part of their community, please sign up. As you've heard from Supervisor Koenig, there is some insurance advantages that do play into being part of that Firewise community. We also have a very healthy community over on the west side off of High Street, the Highland Group, and we are on the brink of starting one on Western. So we'll ring the whole city now with Firewise communities, and hopefully that'll benefit all of the residents here. So that's exciting. Secondarily, we have just finished up a lot of our veg management grants through fantastic support from the State Coastal Commission and CAL FIRE. We were able to accomplish vegetation management in Arana Gulch, Moore Creek, and Poganip. And the really exciting thing in Poganip, we did sort of a test management plan of removing invasive species. So we were able to remove 6 acres of acacia following the Parks Department's invasive management species plan. And we hope we'll see how that goes. It happened this last fall, so we'll see how. Hopefully they won't come back. We are able to apply herbicidal treatment per their plan, and hopefully they'll be eradicated. The wonderful thing about the Parks Department and with State Coastal Commission, this was a last minute Hail Mary to get this work done. They also funded some replanting of some native species to replace the invasive. So that's always a great thing to hear, that we're not just looking at wildfire management in terms of cutting, but we're also looking at forest health and bringing the forest back to what it should be. So that's always a very encouraging, and working hand in hand with the Parks Department on that. So again, exciting things that we have done. Third very exciting thing is, I told you I'm cheerleading today. We received a rather healthy grant from Congressman Panetta's office in the form of about $400,000 that we are purchasing a new Type 6 fire engine. And what that is, it's a quick response vehicle for wildland incidents. So think of our big engines that we need to respond, like to the Grant Street fire, where we have to get a lot of personnel, apparatus, water to a scene in the city. This is a quick response vehicle out in the wildland areas where it's 4-wheel drive, it's a smaller footprint, and it's very nimble, so we can get deeper into those incidents. A lot smaller than the Type 3 CAL FIRE engines and the Type 3 engines that we have that you'll see on some of these wildland incidents. So that is a fantastic opportunity for the city. We've never had one before. And amazingly, even with this sort of delay in acquiring equipment, we are anticipating receiving delivery in February of next year, which is an incredibly quick turnaround. So very excited about that. Again, see, cheerleading. Another fantastic thing that's coming on is with our budget. Now, I'm going to caveat this in saying that it still has to be approved in the budget hearings coming up through council. But I was given they took money away with some budget cuts. This was supposed to be a status quo year, but I was able to make the case to receive some veg management funding back into my budget again. So I'll have additional funding. And for your neighborhood, what I would like to do, and again, work with the Parks Department, is addressing some of those invasives might not have heard all that. I'm not going to repeat it. I apologize. I'll send a newsletter out. But the citywide resiliency plan. So we're really looking at all of our open spaces, and again, the forest health and the wildfire safety, fire access, all into one sort of document that it's a roadmap for how we want to address each area and vegetation management. What types of vegetation's there? What types of invasive species are there? How often do we have to go and manage it? How much do we have to manage? What do we have to do to maintain our fire access in? Protecting all of our critical water infrastructure to make sure we have water to fight the fires, protecting the homes that surround our public lands. So very excited. We just awarded the contract last month to a consulting group. So we will be kicking off that project this July and anticipating completing that a year from there. It's going to be pretty intensive where they're going to do site visits throughout the city and county. As most of you know, the water department owns property all through the county, including the Newell watershed, which is where Loch Lomond Dam is, and all of our water comes from. So we really want to protect all of our water infrastructure and sources as well. So that's exciting, all these exciting things. But that's not the most exciting thing I have for you today. I know. So, and I want to introduce someone to all of you, and this has been a long time coming because since last fall we had our OES manager retire, and so we've been trying to hire a new OES manager, and we were fortunate enough to hire Meredith Albert, who's here today. Thank you. And she comes from the city of Cupertino, and she really specializes in disaster response, but also emergency evacuation out of neighborhoods. And so one of the projects she worked in Cupertino, she worked with the Genesis platform, which is Cruiseware, right? Correct? And set up evacuation maps, reached out to the community to engage them to make sure that they knew where the evacuation routes were. So we're looking at doing something very similar in your neighborhood especially, but throughout the city to really address that. In addition, she'll be helping out with acquiring more grant funding for us for more vegetation projects and more toys for all the firefighters that I have. So I'm super excited about her coming on board and welcome you. This is day 3 for her, so I didn't want to put her up in front of the firing squad, so to speak, and have to answer any questions. But for future meetings, she will be participating and she will be available for the barrage of questions from all of you. The second special guest I have is her partner Brian Garcia of the National Weather Service, who provides us with the amazing weather forecasts for all the winter storms we have. And he's such an asset to have directly interfacing with our county, all our county partners up and down and within the whole Monterey Bay area. So thank you for coming as well. And we're really glad to have you here. And we're really fortunate to have Meredith as part of our team. And we're super excited. So. And I probably have some more exciting things to say, but I'll hold on to them.
All right, next I'm gonna, sure. If you could just, the mic so that the folks online can hear.
Question. Super exciting news. The roadmap sounds awesome. Do you plan to work with the Firewise groups and other communities to maybe get some input for that roadmap? For instance, areas of the park we might want to make sure get elevated.
So we're going to take, for the resiliency plan itself, we're really going to take a holistic approach and look at all areas. And so this is a huge project. We will be speaking with like leaders of the Firewise communities to identify these areas. But Tony and I are very well versed in all areas, in his staff and my staff of the city. So we will be reaching out. We're not going to be holding a whole myriad of community meetings like they did with the CWPP. It's a little bit different because that's more of a community plan. This is more of a city city property, city facility plan, but yes, we will be engaging that. And I also wanted to note another exciting point. Thank you for bringing the slides from the insurance commissioner. I thought that of all the questions I get, I think I get those the most now in terms of an insurance. So it's fantastic that he came and spoke, and you were able to bring that to us today, because it is something that I hear almost daily in terms of what's going on with our insurance. My policy got dropped. What can I do? And I do know that a member on the Highland group just got a 10% discount on their insurance policy because of the Firewise group. So that's an added benefit of being part of the Firewise community. Just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Chief Shields. I'll just call you anytime I need to pick me up. Next, I'm going to hand the mic to our Parks Director, Tony Elliott.
All right, thanks very much. We got a little reverb on the computer screen up here, so I feel like I'm in a 80s hair band or something like that. So anyway, good to be with you all. My name's Tony Elliott. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the city, and I believe that Supervisor Koenig may be my long lost brother. We're still trying to figure that out. But anyway, that aside, good to be with you. Hard to top Chief Shields and the updates from the fire department, but as Chief Shields mentioned, working very collaboratively with the fire department, with the police department, with the homeless response team here, as well on a lot of projects. So I'll talk first about De La Viega Park. De La Viega is in many ways Santa Cruz's central park. We have many different parks crews that work within this one park. Some of these folks you may know. So Blake Wessner is our open spaces and greenways supervisor. He works on the trails in the sort of De La Viega wilderness with his teams. Miles Hicks is our golf course superintendent. He manages the maintenance of both De La Viega disc golf course and the ball golf course in Upper Park. And then Leslie Keedy is our urban forester. You all probably know Leslie, who does a lot of work out here as well. And then our neighborhood parks crew that actually maintains all of the city's medians. They do all of the vegetation management work along the sound walls along the highways. So sort of on the inside of those sound walls. So many different parks crews that are doing work right in this area. So all of these folks are unified under our park superintendent, which I'll give a shameless plug quickly that position is currently open and being recruited for. So if you're interested in being a future leader in the parks division for the city of Santa Cruz, go to our website. And that position is open for a week or so to apply. So lots happening there, but a really great team doing a lot of different things. So I'll touch on a few of those quickly. So our annual fire break work or veg management work in De La is happening here as we get into June. So we're waiting for soil moistures to reduce so that basically we can come in and clear vegetation and don't have to come back a second time in late June or July. So as far as Brookwood, several areas within De La Viega, Arana Gulch as well, Jesse Street Marsh, and really throughout the city park system doing a lot of that vegetation management work, starting here the first week in June, conditions pending. So coming up very soon. Veg management along our sound walls that I mentioned, that will happen in the July timeframe. Things are looking very shaggy right now out there in the medians and along those sound walls. So always a risk. We worry about that errant cigarette butt that's flipped out of the car window, starting a fire. So we're getting in there. We've mowed those down on medians once or twice already, but everything keeps growing back. So the early July timeframe will be our last big push to clear that out this spring and summer. Gosh, lots of other things going on. I want to talk a little bit about Branciforte. We are working with the county along Branciforte. We've had a lot of RV parking, illegal parking along Branciforte over the past year. So we're working together to look to install a split rail fence that will have a park look along Branciforte to help mitigate the sort of unsanctioned parking areas along Branciforte. So these were some of the areas that Lieutenant Jones sort of spoke about when we cleared the encampment above the dog park. So a lot of RVs or cars were kind of pulling off. taking things up the hill along Branson 40. So we want to put in a fence through there that doesn't look terrible. We're not talking about chain link fences or anything like that, but talking about a split rail fence that can have the effect of defining where you can park and where you can't park along Branson 40, and allowing our colleagues of the police department and fire department to be really clear, again, how to enforce that, or how to think about these areas that are sort of undefined and can be problematic. So working on that as well. Lots of other things we could talk about. But on the grant side of things, I wanted to mention that the Parks and Rec Department received a USDA forestry grant for $1 million recently. So we will be hiring a resource ecologist, and Leslie Keaty, who I mentioned, will be spearheading the implementation of that urban forestry grant. We have a street tree master plan. If you have never checked that out, it's a pretty progressive and aggressive document in terms of reforesting our community with native trees, native plants, and to a large degree, mitigating invasives, managing this vegetation that can often cause fire or other environmental issues. So $1 million grant. We hope to really do some good work with that over the next year, really over the next 3 years. So much more to talk about there. And that's really an implementation of our street tree master plan. So as we talked about, we're not just cutting vegetation out, but we're really trying to plant good vegetation back in its place. So I'll pause there and happy to answer any questions as we get into it. And forgive me if I've lowered the excitement from Chief Shields, but eager to talk more. So thank you. Yes.
Any questions specifically for?
Sorry to be monopolizing. I just wanted to thank you and your department, because you've worked with us on some collaborative ways as well on and with the fire department to work on De La Viega. And I don't know if you want to say something about the invasive species project we just completed with Blake's help and others. And so we appreciate the outreach, and also whatever the neighborhood can do as well. Let us know.
Add to that, we did have got some momentum going on volunteers getting up into the woods, and anything park and city can do on their side is motivation for more of our volunteers to get involved. So we really want to make this a partnership and not build this big volunteer team and then only go do things at that point, but start to work with you so our volunteers get more engaged, then more volunteers become engaged in that team, and we get a bigger team. Then we can kind of help you guys scale. I guess my question for the $1 million grant, is any of that allocated for fuel reduction, or is that mostly just, bringing in additional native species and things?
It'll be more toward planting and kind of managing the urban forest. But I appreciate your point about the partnership, and I think it's a really good one. And another partnership that we have, and I think the Firewise group collaborates as well, but it's with Santa Cruz Mountain Trail Stewardship. And they have, or they're hosting National Trails Day coming up on June 1st. So they'll have volunteer opportunities all across the county, several within the city, but definitely with a focus at De La Viega Park. So in terms of cleaning up trails, managing our trails, some of that vegetation management that comes with that, rock armoring, these type of things, a lot of that work will happen on June 1st. So again, a plug for one of our partners and a way to get involved on the trail side.
Yeah, there's so much good work being done up in the park. Congratulations to everyone. And if we can just kind of get things organized a little bit more under maybe the umbrella of these grants, I think we can have a more efficient impact up there.
Yeah, agreed. And in lots of ways, if anybody's involved in the disc golf club, we've got a new MOA or a new agreement with the disc golf club on how we're working together to manage vegetation and trees up at disc golf. Same with Shakespeare, the Audrey Stanley Grove. We have a lot of eucalyptus trees back there, but over the past few years through grant funding, we've planted, I don't even know the number, but probably close to 100 redwood trees in and around that eucalyptus grove to try to fight off the eucalyptus trees. So rather than going in and just cutting all those down, we're trying to let the sort of natural cycle take over and get redwoods in place of these eucalyptus trees. So that's a partnership with Santa Cruz Shakespeare as well.
Laura, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Sure. I mean, thank you so much, Supervisor Koenig. You did a really great job summarizing what the representative from the Department of Insurance recently communicated to the Board of Supervisors about the essentially insurance crisis that's happening here in California right now. I wanted to communicate my office's role in being a liaison between constituents and essentially the California Fair Plan, in that you can call your senator's office anytime and say, you know what, I'm having a ton of trouble. I just got dropped from my insurance company. I don't know where to turn. I don't know who to contact. We can help you out. It's not a great fix, but it's a short-term fix. We can help you sign up for the Fair Plan. We can tell you which insurance agents can coordinate your Fair Plan policy. If you're just not getting great feedback from the insurance commissioner's office, we can be a liaison with the commissioner's office for you and kind of stand up on your behalf. Like I said, that's not great news. The Fair Plan isn't a long-term fix, but we can help you in the short term. But I'm here today really to answer any questions about what that process might look like. All right. Anyone online? This is an easy job then.
Really, if there's discounts to be offered, how does that get submitted? How does it get tracked? Those types of process related things, because we'll probably get asked those questions.
Right. Let me look back at my notes. So yeah, I think actually Supervisor Koenig mentioned this, but the Fair Plan began offering insurance discounts for essentially the things that Firewise communities are already doing. They're 5-10% discounts. If you're able to show evidence to the insurance commissioner's office, or to the Fair Plan rather, that you have put home hardening practices in place in your community. And if for some reason the Fair Plan denies you that discount, or denies Firewise communities that discount, communities have the right to appeal. And frankly, I'm not sure what the ins and outs of that process are, but as we start getting calls about and questions about it, we'll certainly investigate and be a champion along the way.
And so is that enough? Those kinds of details.
Island Group, Angela, she just was the one who got the discount, so she'll know how it's done. So I would reach out to the Highland Firewise group, and they'll be able to provide more detailed information for you.
Any more questions here in the audience for any of our panelists? All right, I'll turn to the online audience. Are there any questions? Feel free to click the reactions button and raise your hand if you have a question or comment that you want to share. Okay.
I haven't received any questions so far online.
All right, thank you, Shane. Well, if there are nothing more to say, then thank you everyone for coming out tonight. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to be involved. And let's find every opportunity to get more folks involved with Firewise. All right, thanks everyone.